when political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them. Now, to many of us on the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way or, even worse, win an election.
Hey there, Patriots. This is True Outlaw Patriot coming at you with another one. That quick clip that I just showed you was only a couple of seconds of a speech that J.D. Vance gave today in Munich. I think it was today, way earlier today, I should say. When I got up this morning, I was just getting ready for work, just doing my thing, and I happened to come across it. It was about, I believe, 40 minutes old, but I couldn't watch the whole thing, so I was only able to watch about the first 10-15 minutes. And I decided to make a video on it because what I saw today, okay, from the way J.D. Vance spoke, was the way a vice president, in my opinion, not only here in the U.S., but the way a vice president should carry themselves around the world. Not the cackling hen that we had for the past 4 years, okay? Definitely not the president and when he was vice president back when during Obama's era, but a person that basically can go in front of world leaders and basically just lay down the law in the sense that, you know what, things are going to change, and if you don't keep up with it, you're going to be the ones in the end that are going to lose, because it's these world leaders that he's speaking in front of, not all of them, but, you know, a few of them, that are basically doing the bidding of the powers that be worldwide and also in the United States, that they want to push this leftist agenda instead of worrying more about the citizens of the country that they represent. And like I said, just listening to the way J.D. Vance could stand on stage and basically silence everybody, it's just something that I felt that, you know, that we should share together tonight when I make this video. Also, I'm going to point out a few things during the video that I found to be not. I know other people are going to look at it as being rude. I don't think anybody was being rude to J.D. Vance. I just think that he basically left a few people in shock, so they didn't know how to react. That's the way I took it. But I'll point that out as we get there. So before I continue right quickly, I just want to thank all my new subscribers and all my subscribers here on YouTube and on Rumble. So don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around. And if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. With that being said, let's go all the way to the beginning of his speech. It's about a 20-minute speech. But let me tell you something. He unloads. I mean, you would think he could have been there for an hour with the way he was just laying things out. Let's check this out together. Here we go.
Well, thank you, and thanks to all the gathered delegates and luminaries and media professionals, and thanks especially to the host of the Munich Security Conference for being able to put on such an incredible event. We're, of course, thrilled to be here. We're happy to be here. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, of course, our shared values. And, you know, it's great to be back in Germany. As you heard earlier, I was here last year as United States Senator. I saw Foreign Secretary David Lammy and joked that both of us last year had different jobs than we have now. But now it's time for all of our countries, for all of us who have been fortunate enough to be given political power by our respective peoples, to use it wisely to improve their lives. And I want to say that, you know, I was fortunate in my time here to spend some time outside the walls of this conference over the last 24 hours. And I've been so impressed by the hospitality of the people, even as, of course, as they're reeling from yesterday's horrendous attack. And the first time I was ever in Munich was with my wife, actually, who's here with me today, on a personal trip. And I've always loved the city of Munich, and I've always loved its people. And I just want to say that we're very moved, and our thoughts and prayers are with Munich and everybody affected by the evil inflicted on this beautiful community. We're thinking about you, we're praying for you, and we will certainly be rooting for you in the days and weeks to come. Now, I hope that's not the last bit of applause that I get, but
Yeah.
we gather at this conference, of course, to discuss security. And normally, we mean threats to our external security. I see many great military leaders gathered here today. But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within.
There you go.
The retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America. Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election. He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany too. Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard.
Exactly.
And I say ourselves because I fundamentally believe that we are on the same team. We must do more than talk about democratic values, we must live them.
Exactly.
Now, within living memory of many of you in this room, the Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. Mm-hmm. They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And we believe those things are certainly connected.
Okay, I'm going to stop real quick, people. Sorry about that. If anybody's not understanding where he's coming at, it's because there is a censorship campaign in Europe like nobody's ever seen. I mean, even to the point, if anybody remembers, and this is recent, where I don't know which world leader it was, or somebody in a high political position that said that they, if anybody, meaning at the time Elon Musk, was to put any kind of criticism online, that their laws gave them the power to come overseas, meaning here, to come here in America, and arrest Elon Musk, okay? Because they passed laws saying that you basically could not voice your opinion about certain people in Europe. The certain people being the Muslim extremist, okay? There is so much going on in Europe, in Britain, in Ireland, in Germany, where in the Muslim population, there are so many Muslim extremists that are causing so much chaos. Like right now you have, if anybody doesn't know, the channel Maya Tusi, and there's also another channel I came across, and on my next video, if I remember, I'll try to leave it, of this young guy in, believe he's in England, that has been covering the Pakistani rape gangs that are in Britain that are picking up young girls and basically just raping them and grooming them, okay? and if you say anything about it, you get in trouble. As a matter of fact, there are some instances where some girls have went and have tried to go and press charges of the men that have raped her, and they have been charged with crimes. Not the men, the young girls. But when you have leaders in Europe that are high on the hog on this censorship campaign, and are telling, that are so brazen to say that even if somebody like me right now, if I criticize it, that they're threatening to come and arrest me, which I'll just basically tell them, go kick rocks. I'm in America. I don't know where the hell you people think you're going to be able to get that kind of power. All it does is embolden criminals worldwide and world leaders to stick to that, what the left likes to call that real fascist mindset. Okay, and that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like, and it looks like. It is a fascist censorship campaign. And kudos to JD Vance for bringing this up. And you see a lot of people here, they're all quiet, they're looking at him, but you're going to see how they're going to applaud him. Okay, like I said, I only seen about the first 15 minutes. And he brings something up where not that many people applaud him. And the reason being is because JD Vance is basically laying the law down. Okay, basically telling all these world leaders, you don't have the right to censor and basically lock up your citizens for their freedom of speech. Okay, and one more thing before I start, I don't want to make it too long. All you people, all you leftists out there that are so pro-Ukraine, you do know that Zelensky has arrested people and has censored people, and basically has how can I say, he basically didn't let the election happen where he would have got ousted. Okay, as a matter of fact, Putin himself says that whatever deals are made, if I'm phrasing this right, whatever deals are made with Ukraine, that he will not supposedly listen to any deals with Zelensky, because Zelensky technically is not the leader of Ukraine. We'll dive into that some other time, but just so you people know what's going on. So all you leftists out there that are pro-Ukraine, Ukraine is actually pushing a real fascist censorship campaign in Ukraine. But let's continue.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest, the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content.
Yep.
Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder.
Unbelievable.
And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief.
But yet, it's okay for Muslim extremists to go and torment the people in Europe. In case nobody has been watching, I haven't really touched on it because it's a whole different topic, but that's all you've been hearing. And a lot of these content creators have been threatened, where they basically have to go into hiding. As a matter of fact, Maya Tusi, I believe, had to pack up and go. Tommy Robinson is in prison right now for calling out these Pakistani grooming and raping gangs. And it's like I said, there is this real fascist censorship movement in Europe coddling everybody on the left and coddling Muslim extremists. And it's like no one in those countries, the citizens, are allowed to say anything in their own country. And if before anybody says, well, that's Europe, look at what's going on in America. Thank God that Donald Trump got reelected. But look at the road that we were headed down. Okay? Now, one more quick thing. This man right here, I don't know if anybody's into the boxing world. I believe this is, I don't know which Klitschko brother this is. I think that's Vladimir. But he's gotten into politics. And just in case anybody didn't know, if you do, then you know who this face is. But let's continue.
And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own.
Yep.
And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before.
Unbelievable.
Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility.
Now, if that's not a demonic mindset, I don't know what is, people. Okay? Imagine the time that we live in right now, that just for praying silently, okay, by yourself, you get arrested. Let me tell you something. To all you atheists out there that think that God doesn't exist, that the Bible is fake, it has been written that people will be persecuted for his name's sake. Okay? People will be persecuted for Jesus' name's sake. And here we are, a man being arrested for standing in front of an abortion clinic, silently praying for the son that him and his ex-girlfriend, or maybe, I don't know if it's his ex or whatever the case is, that they aborted. Him praying because of the guilt that he felt. To think that a government, okay, would pass a law that even if you pray silently in your head out in the street, you get arrested. How many Muslim groups are out there worldwide pretty much saying and doing whatever the hell they want, and they let them go free reign? Why? Let's continue.
He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law.
Unbelievable.
Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Yep.
And in the interest of comedy, my friends, but also in the interest of truth, I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country.
Yep.
Where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation.
Yep.
Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth.
Yep.
So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town.
You got that right.
And under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Okay, now right there, did you see the small applause? Did you see the look on some of these people's faces? I mean, they're looking as if like, uh-oh, now we can't push our agenda. Because basically what Vance is saying is that, you know what? You are going to understand that if you want things to work, and also if you want to do business with America, you're going to have to stop your censorship campaigns. Now, I know that some people are going to say, well, it's not the United States position to push this type of policy, if you want to call it whatever you want to call it, on world leaders. What nobody's understanding is this. Before Donald Trump got elected, okay, and I do a lot of research. I go to different channels from content creators from different countries, and especially the ones that pay close attention to elections in America. You have no idea how many people, I'm talking from Canada all the way across to Europe, Asia, Middle East. You would, especially in Europe, you would be so surprised how many people would leave in the comments, like leaving a comment for Trump. Trump, we need you to win. Okay? I mean, I've seen so many comments. As a matter of fact, Tommy Robinson, before he got arrested, before he got locked up, which was not too long ago, they had a big march, a big I don't know how many people it was. It was tens of thousands of people. But he got on stage and he paid homage to Donald Trump and left it was like between 3 and 5 minute speech telling Trump how much the UK and Britain need him to win. And the people in the crowd, I mean, were cheering. That you would think, in all honesty, you would think you was in a rally in America. This was in the UK, because they want to follow a campaign of freedom, and their freedoms are being taken away. I mean, look at the chaos in Germany that is going on with the illegal migrants because of what I believe it was because of Angela Merkel. I think it was letting all these people in and not caring about the people that are being harassed and or raped or whatever the case is in Germany. And if they speak out, the citizens are the ones that get in trouble, not the criminals. And it just baffles my mind how all these people could be in this one area, and just the small applause should tell everybody how many of these leaders do not want to give what's best for their citizens in their country. They'd rather press them down. They'd rather keep them under thumb and say, you know what? No, this is how we're going to do it, and you're going to shut your mouth and you're going to like it. Just so people could understand what's going on. It's not only in America. This is going on around the Western world big time. But let's continue.
Now, we're at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this December, Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election.
Check that out.
Based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
Exactly. Look at that. Do you see that? Another small applause. That's because all these people, he's got them in shock. Because he's speaking facts. He's basically speaking facts. The people that didn't applaud, that basically right there goes to show you that they're probably guilty of just doing that. Of basically advertising for their election and or stopping people from winning their election, and because they want to hold on to the power. This applause was even smaller than the last one, people. Pay attention. This is how deep these oligarchs, these power that be holders, these world leaders that talk so much about, that we live in a free society, just that this smaller applause should show you how many of these people in the Western world are running, like I said, a like a fascist censorship campaign. Okay, and now with Donald Trump out on the helm, more people around the world are happy about it because they know that, you know what, if Donald Trump is going to be doing business with their leaders, Donald Trump's going to lay down the law. This is the way it's going to be. The same way that Donald Trump, when there was beef going on in Iran where the people were protesting and stuff like that, Donald Trump came out and said it. I stand with the people in Iran. He was vilified for saying that because the left wanted all these crooked mullahs in Iran to be running the show and basically keep everybody on edge, you know, over wars and stuff like that, or rumors of wars, where Donald Trump was like, no, if the people want to revolt, if they want their country back, then I stand with them. So much for Donald Trump being a racist that he's standing with Muslims in Iran. But let's continue.
Now, the good news is that I happen to think your democracies are substantially less brittle than many people apparently fear. And I really do believe that allowing our citizens to speak their mind will make them stronger still.
There you go.
Which, of course, brings us back to Munich, where the organizers of this very conference have banned lawmakers representing populist parties on both the left and the right from participating in these conversations. Now, again, we don't have to agree with everything or anything that people say. But when people represent, when political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them.
Exactly.
Now, to many of us on the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way, or even worse, win an election.
Yep.
Now, this is a security conference, and I'm sure you all came here prepared to talk about how exactly you intend to increase defense spending over the next few years in line with some new target. And that's great, because as President Trump has made abundantly clear, he believes that our European friends must play a bigger role in the future of this continent. We don't think, you hear this term, burden sharing, but we think it's an important part of being in a shared alliance together that the Europeans step up while America focuses on areas of the world that are in great danger. But let me also ask you, how will you even begin to think through the kinds of budgeting questions if we don't know what it is that we're defending in the first place? I've heard a lot already in my conversations, and I've had many, many great conversations with many people gathered here in this room. I've heard a lot about what you need to defend yourselves from, and of course that's important. But what has seemed a little bit less clear to me, and certainly I think to many of the citizens of Europe, is what exactly it is that you're defending yourselves for. What is the positive vision that animates this shared security compact that we all believe is so important? And I believe deeply that there is no security if you are afraid of the voices, the opinions, and the conscience that guide your very own people. Europe faces many challenges, but the crisis this continent faces right now, the crisis I believe we all face together, is one of our own making. If you're running in fear of your own voters, there is nothing America can do for you. Nor, for that matter, is there anything that you can do for the American people who elected me and elected President Trump. You need democratic mandates to accomplish anything of value in the coming years. Have we learned nothing that thin mandates produce unstable results? But there is so much of value that can be accomplished with the kind of democratic mandate that I think will come from being more responsive to the voices of your citizens.
There you go.
If you're going to enjoy competitive economies, if you're going to enjoy affordable energy and secure supply chains, then you need mandates to govern, because you have to make difficult choices to enjoy all of these things. And of course, we know that very well in America. You cannot win a democratic mandate by censoring your opponents or putting them in jail. Whether that's the leader of the opposition, a humble Christian praying in her own home, or a journalist trying to report the news. Nor can you win one by disregarding your basic electorate on questions like who gets to be a part of our shared society. And of all the pressing challenges that the nations represented here face, I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course it's gotten much higher since. And we know this situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade.
Yep.
We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place? It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well.
Absolutely.
An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. But you know what they did vote for? In England, they voted for Brexit, and agree or disagree, they voted for it. And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration. Now, I happen to agree with a lot of these concerns, but you don't have to agree with me. I just think that people care about their homes, they care about their dreams, they care about their safety and their capacity to provide for themselves and their children. And they're smart. I think this is one of the most important things I've learned in my brief time in politics. Contrary to what you might hear a couple mountains over in Davos, the citizens of all of our nations don't generally think of themselves as educated animals or as interchangeable cogs of a global economy. And it's hardly surprising that they don't want to be shuffled about or relentlessly ignored by their leaders. And it is the business of democracy to adjudicate these big questions at the ballot box. I believe that dismissing people, dismissing their concerns, or worse yet, shutting down media, shutting down elections, or shutting people out of the political process protects nothing. In fact, it is the most surefire way to destroy democracy. And speaking up and expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential.
Yep.
And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. But what German democracy, what no democracy, American, German, or European, will survive is telling millions of voters that their thoughts and concerns, their aspirations, their pleas for relief are invalid or unworthy of even being considered. Democracy rests on the sacred principle that the voice of the people matters. There's no room for firewalls. You either uphold the principle or you don't. Europeans, the people, have a voice. European leaders have a choice. And my strong belief is that we do not need to be afraid of the future. You can embrace what your people tell you, even when it's surprising, even when you don't agree. And if you do so, you can face the future with certainty and with confidence, knowing that the nation stands behind each of you. And that, to me, is the great magic of democracy. It's not in these stone buildings or beautiful hotels. It's not even in the great institutions that we have built together as a shared society. To believe in democracy is to understand that each of our citizens has wisdom and has a voice. And if we refuse to listen to that voice, even our most successful fights will secure very little. As Pope John Paul II, in my view, one of the most extraordinary champions of democracy on this continent or any other, once said, "Do not be afraid." We shouldn't be afraid of our people, even when they express views that disagree with their leadership. Thank you all. Good luck to all of you. God bless you.
I tell you, people, I don't care what anybody says, okay? I'm going to call it now. This man right here after Trump needs to be the next president of the United States. 2 terms. This man basically went in front of these world leaders with no fear, okay? He mentioned God. He told them all, God bless you. I mean, he basically told them, which I know that a lot of the leaders here are not, probably didn't want to hear, but he basically went on stage and said, this is going to be the deal. Either you get your boot off your citizens' necks, or you're going to have a very hard time dealing with President Trump and the United States. That's basically what he was saying. He was saying, excuse me. And in all honesty, he's right. We should not be making deals with any country that censors their citizens and arrests their citizens and threatens to arrest citizens from other countries because they have an opinion and they have freedom of speech and they exercise it. This is something that the left does not want. Okay? The left is not just running rampant in the United States, it's running rampant worldwide. And what do? They project their words. They project their actions on everybody else. Like case in point, I'll keep saying it, the way they keep coming out and calling people that don't agree with them, or anybody that supports Trump or whatever the case is, that you're all a bunch of fascists. But who went and started the censorship campaign in America? It all started with Barack Obama, and it was really amped up under Biden, where even Mark Zuckerberg said, yes, they came to Facebook, they told us this, and this, and you know, we basically went along with it. The same thing with, what was his name from Twitter? Jack Dorsey. He knew the censorship that was going on in Twitter. And all that fell apart when Elon Musk went and bought Twitter and opened up the Twitter files and started showing people this is what was going on. So many people were being censored. And the left tried to double down on that and said, no, you know what? He's lying. He's trying to censor us. Twitter right now is nothing but a censorship platform. They just keep projecting their own hate, their own actions on everybody else. And like I said, it's not happening just here in America. It is happening worldwide, especially in the Western world, meaning Europe. Okay? And it's funny the way he comes out and says, he brings out about Greta Thunberg, that the left had that girl basically trying to shame every single person on the planet and every adult and political leader on the planet. And they let her do it freely. And you're upset because the richest man on the planet lives in a country where he has freedom of speech and he's exercising his freedom of speech. You're gonna get upset and try to silence him and then try to bully him by saying we're gonna send people over to America to arrest you. Let me tell you something. I guarantee that if Harris would have won the election, in some way, shape, or form, the powers that be would have made that possible. They would have made that. They would have found a way to make it possible to get Elon Musk arrested and basically extradited. Okay, even though he didn't commit any crimes, and then try to pick his company apart and just divide it amongst all the rich elitists in this country that are trying to destroy this country from within. And I'm glad that he brought it up again about the enemy within, and this time he's basically telling these world leaders, this is what's going on in your societies. And it's true. More and more people in Europe, and especially content creators, are being silenced. They're being attacked. They're being vilified. They're being taken to court. They're being arrested. Okay? They're being arrested, and especially if you don't hold the same religious beliefs as these Muslim extremists, Christians are being persecuted. I don't see anybody fighting for the Christians. As a matter of fact, in all honesty, I don't even see the protests of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians protesting it. And that's because the powers that be are putting out this fear campaign that you don't have the right to do so, when in all reality you do. And what the people in Europe that are still doing these things, what they fear the most is Donald Trump. And I'm glad that JD Vance was able to come here and make this speech and basically put everybody on blast and let everybody know, like he said, there's a new sheriff in town. Now, do I think that some of the people here, or maybe a lot more that weren't clapping, were probably not clapping because they agree, but they have to stay silent? Something tells me that's probably the case. But if you look at the whole picture, okay, you look at all these heads out here, a lot of them were very quiet because they know what they're doing. But now they all understand that, you know what? You're not going to be dealing, if you thought that Trump was bad his first time around, look at what he's doing now. Look at what you're going to have to be dealing with. You're going to be dealing with somebody that's no nonsense, that's going to put his foot down and lay down the law and say, you know what? This is how we're going to do business. There's not going to be any more cheating. There's not going to be any more money laundering. There's not going to be any more wars, rumors of wars, none of that. There's not going to be no more transgenderism. There's not going to be no Muslim extremists. There's not going to be no more protests. We don't want it. The majority of the people on the planet, the big majority, the vast majority of the people on the planet don't want it. People want to live in peace. People want to extend their hand out to help even strangers. But when you have people on the left with this demonic, wicked agenda to just try to destroy everybody, especially destroy all that is good, I mean, people just got to stand up, because that can't happen. It shouldn't happen, especially in this day and age. I mean, I don't know if anybody's caught the news. And I'll wrap it up when I say this. I was going to make a video on it, but I mean, there's so much content out there that I believe in where is it, in Massachusetts or something like that. They voted, and I don't know if anybody's heard, but go look it up. They voted to make one of their towns or one of their cities a sanctuary enclave for transgender people. Think about that. Because they're out there bitching and moaning that they're being attacked. And to listen to these people in front of the podium, I mean, it was getting so damn ridiculous that some of the people, some of the upper heads were basically telling them, just wrap it up, just go. Because they were getting nasty, they were cursing, they were threatening, they were physically threatening. And even with all that, chances are, I think they won. I think that they're going to deem some part of Massachusetts a sanctuary for transgender people. And most of the people that were talking on there, that were pushing for this, mostly men. Okay? Just big, burly, weak men with wigs and lipstick, and all they could keep talking about is about the trans kids, the trans kids. It's like, what the hell do these grown-ass men care about young kids' sexuality? But this is what happens when you let this small fringe minority, okay, have a bigger voice than you. You know, I watch Officer Tatum a lot, and there's a phrase that he uses a lot. And he says it a lot. He says the devil is a liar. And it's true. The wickedness that is running rampant in the Western world is being perpetrated by evil, wicked people with an evil, wicked agenda. To silence the masses, to basically let crime run amok, to brainwash the kids, to destroy the nuclear family, all that that is no good. And they're doing a damn good job about it because there are so many people that they're brainwashing. Those are the people, okay, that truly need God in their lives. And the leaders also, don't get me wrong. But as far as the real evil, wicked ones, to me, those are just messengers from down below. Those are, I've said it many times. I do believe that there are demons walking among us. Okay? Because how does anybody in their right mind look at all this and say, it's all fine. It's all good. Don't worry about it. We're fine with it. We're fine with the crime. We're fine with brainwashing the kids. We're fine with censoring people, putting people in prison. We're fine with all that. It's an evil, wicked agenda. And I am so happy that J.D. Vance went on stage. He gave this speech. I mean, he had people applauding for him. Like I said, a lot of them didn't. It makes me wonder why, but we'll see as time goes on. And I truly hope that more people come out the woodwork and start standing up, you know, with what the United States is doing, with what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance wants to do. And they are. But they need a voice. Especially like Tommy Robinson. He needs a voice now. He has put his neck on the line for so many innocent children. It's time that the adults start supporting him. And I truly hope that Trump could come up with some sort of a deal with Britain, wherever he's at. I don't know what part of the UK they got him locked up at. But I truly hope that, I know that some people say, well, that's not one of our prisoners or one of our citizens that got locked up. I get it. But when it comes to something like this, you're shutting down a person that is looking out for the best interests of children. And all they're showing is that you don't care about the children, just like the Biden administration didn't care about the children. And I find that to be totally evil, disgusting, and like Hillary Clinton said, deplorable. You leftists are deplorable. Plain and simple. But there's still hope for some of you. If you want it, that is. If you want it. If not, that's your choice. It is what it is. But anyway, that's what I got for you. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, pass the channel around. And if you can help support the channel, there's a link in my description to my Cash App and my merch store. So remember, people, stay vigilant. Keep praying for each other. Keep praying for the women and the children. Pray for this country. Pray for your enemies. Pray for Donald Trump. And pray for all the missing children that they brought across the border. Peace.